Hi friends, it's Dawn the Recovery Lady here with tip 13, formerly episodes. Now we're moving into tips. For my empty nesters who are still with me on this journey, I am with you. And everything that I will be talking about, I will still include that. However, as I mentioned in the other video, I am expanding as I've gotten so much feedback because these recovery tips are useful for really anything you're going in your life. So I want to be inclusive of everyone. Okay, today's topic, the last couple of times we've been talking about change. What does it look like? Why do we fear it? False evidence appearing real. And then we went over very carefully the stages of change, the 6. And if you haven't watched that, I encourage you to go back to tip 12 and watch it because these are recovery tips. And in case I didn't introduce myself and you're new, I am Dawn, D-A-W-N, not Don or Donna, the Recovery Lady, a behavioral health clinician here with weekly recovery tips that you can apply to your life to move forward. So today we are talking about comfort zones. When you hear me say the word comfort zones, you're probably thinking, yeah, I like it. That's where I feel safe. It's a state of mind we get into that is so familiar and so comfortable, we don't want to leave it. In fact, many people have sat in front of me and said, Dawn, why would I want to leave a comfort zone? That works for me. Comfort zones in general are meant to be transitional. They are meant to be temporary to get us from one stage of life to another. Comfort zones are not meant to be a way of life. It is a place of temporary stability. We could be in a job for 30 years. You could be working on the assembly line and you're putting your piece of whatever in the hole, 567 times a day, and you're good at it. And you can tell when there's going to be a problem. And maybe you wanted to move up. Maybe you wanted to change careers. But you are so comfortable in that position because you can pretty much predict what's going to happen. You don't want to leave it. And why should you? It's comfortable and you know what to do. But you also know you've reached your cap and there isn't more that you can do in that position. You've kind of maxed out. So to leave that, hypothetically go to a different job, change a career, go to night school so you're learning to move on to something else. The thought of that, the false evidence appearing real, the fear immobilizes us and keeps us small and keeps us in a comfort zone. A comfort zone can occur in the workplace. A comfort zone could be something like coming home and watching, I don't know, Everybody Loves Raymond at night. I know somebody who watches that every day. It's the comfort zone that just makes you feel grounded and in the moment. But is it meant to be forever? We can stay in comfort zones in relationships, in jobs, in any situation. And do you know, I was going to do a separate video on this at one point, but that comfort zones are the reason that family patterns, negative family patterns, repeat. If you come out of a, let's say a toxic relationship, and everything that happens from 0 to 8 years old kind of becomes your baseline. It's that stuff that's instilled in us that we're subconsciously drawn to because it's familiar. So let's say you're from a big Italian family, and I don't know any ethnicity. I'm Polish, any ethnicity. And somebody's, I'll say Polish because I'm all Polish. And someone's yelling, "Bring me the kielbasa, you big gołąbki," or some crazy Polish thing. And somebody's in the house going, "Wow, your family's kind of aggressive," but those are terms of endearment. And you kind of grow up with that baseline and realize, okay, that's comfortable, that's familiar. So you're kind of subconsciously drawn to it because you know what to do in it. Well, negative, it becomes a comfort zone because you know how to act in that situation. Hence, this is often why negative family patterns repeat as well. So, and this is not quite the topic of this, but it's so important I want to touch on it. You'll see people who go through battered person syndrome. Why are you staying in that relationship? Why? It's so negative. You're getting physically abused. Your person, you've been with this person for so long and they're not sober or they're using. And, why do you stay there? 9.9 times out of 10, when I'm working with somebody in a situation like that who stays in a toxic relationship or workplace, the reason that we know as behaviorists that you grew up with that is because a healthy mindset wouldn't stay there. You know, a lot of people, I'll tell them when they come out of a lot of trauma, it's like, and you learned to survive in a very traumatic background, whatever, everybody's trauma is different. That might look like to you. It's like, okay, dad's pulling in the driveway and, you know, I hear the pebbles with the tires on the pebbles of the car, and everybody in the house stiffens up and runs around and cleans because he has to come home to a clean house, you know, triggering and conditioning. And you get really good at it because nobody wants to trigger dad. This is hypothetical because he could get violent or drink or whatever the dysfunction is. So we get so comfortable in that, and then we grow up and partner with someone like that. Our conscious mind is like, I hate this. I hated this growing up. Why did I repeat it? It's not because you're consciously compromised and, so to speak, it's that you knew how to exist in that system. Peaceful, healthy is so still that the silence is uncomfortable. The healthy environment is uncomfortable. So we are subconsciously drawn to other dysfunctional people who we date, who we live with, who we marry, because it's comfortable and familiar and it's part of our baseline. So we would rather stay in that environment where we know how to exist than challenge the false evidence appearing real and be in a safe, healthy workplace or a safe, healthy relationship where we're appreciated and loved and treasured and adored because it's boring and we don't know how to act in it. That's why family patterns repeat. Believe it or not, those are forms of comfort zones, you know, repeating that dysfunctional pattern. And then we beat ourselves up. Why did I do it? Why did I do it? Why did I repeat exactly what I hated? Because it's a comfort zone. And that's why throughout our life, it's so important to be aware and to have intentional interventions, going to counseling, getting help, sitting at your job if you're on the assembly line, or if you're a neurosurgeon and, you know, I don't want to sew one more brain together and you just don't want to do it anymore. And it's a matter of belief systems and believing it in yourself. And I might do the next video on belief systems because it's so powerful. And those faulty belief systems keep us in our comfort zone. That's how negative family patterns repeat. You see somebody married 3 times, they keep marrying the same person over and over, same thing wrapped in a different package. They're stuck in a comfort zone. Their baseline needs some developing. And it's almost like a behavioral handicap. Comfort zones can be so dangerous. You might be a gifted artist. You might be a gifted salesperson, and let's say you're working in the factory again, or you could be the neurosurgeon, and you've got this other talent, and that's what God created you to do, and you can feel the passion, you're on fire, and you need to go and do it, but you don't, because you're so afraid that you aren't enough, and you don't have enough to survive outside of that. Okay, now I have to do a little something on belief systems next time. And I want to encourage you, these comfort zones are dangerous. Remember, they're transitional. So when you're coming from the toxic family, hypothetically, you learned how to survive in it when you heard the tires on the driveway and the crinkling and everybody ran around because it was a survival technique needed for you at that phase in your life. But you outgrew it. And I'm going to tell you what I've told all my patients, because I'm very visual. I'm a visual learner. And this is how I saw it when I learned it. I remember when I had my first child, and that child was born, and they swaddled that baby up in a blanket so twice the baby looked like half of its size than it did coming out of me, and the head was big and the cheeks were red. And I said to the nurse, "What are you doing? You're killing my baby," you know, because the swaddling was so tight. And the nurse said to me, "You know, Dawn, we swaddle babies that tight when they come out because it mimics their surroundings in the womb. It's tight, it's cozy, it's warm. That swaddling helps the baby transition from that warm womb into the cold, bright world. It's temporary. The baby wasn't meant to stay swaddled its whole life. And think about it. You might say, oh, baby's so comfortable, I'm never going to unswaddle it. What would happen if you just change your baby, fed your baby, and swaddled it up tight? It would constrict it. It couldn't grow. Its bones couldn't develop. It would damage it. That comfort zone was meant for a very short amount of time. It's a transition. But yet we can get stuck in comfort zones for our lifetimes. And we can be repeating patterns in the workplace, in personal relationships, in all areas because we don't know who we are enough and trust ourselves. We're to grow. We're getting subconsciously drawn back to our baseline or something we're exposed to generally at some time. That's what comfort zones are. I so hope this was helpful to you. And I want to challenge you right now to ask you, what comfort zones do you have right now that you're having a hard time letting go of? Again, it could be that job and you just feel like one more day in that job and I'm going to lose my mind. But I'm telling you, you're worth more than that. You can do more than that. You don't want to be a fool. You don't want to just walk out and quit and have no income, but you should be working and looking for the next thing. The worst thing that happens, you can always go back. And if you're in a relationship, why do people keep going back to toxic relationships? Stay engaged for 7 years. You see that a lot. And that's because the other person really has no intention of marrying you. You are worth more. We have to break free of our comfort zones. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be unfamiliar, but it is going to facilitate positive change in your life. It won't always be easy, but what are your choices? You're going to spend another 10 years like that? You're going to spend another 10 years in that job, another 10 years in that relationship? People say, but I've invested 30 years in that company. Has it invested in you? Is your soul fed? I've invested 10, 20, 30 years in that relationship. You've invested, do you want to lose 10, 20, 30 more years? I'm not talking about a marriage. It's a whole different avenue for a marriage. But in general, breaking our comfort zones is critical for change. As we talked about in the other video, knowing the difference between difficult and destructive people. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. We can't heal if we stay in relationships with destructive people because we keep getting wounded. Stitch you up and you get wounded again. All of this to say, where are you swaddled as a baby? Picture the baby. The longer you stay swaddled, the more growth, the bones, the skin, nothing can grow, and you end up getting disfigured. Are you emotionally disfigured? Psychologically disfigured because of comfort zones? Take that step and break free. Get a counselor, get a therapist, get a career coach. Take a chance. You have it in you. I believe in you. I'm not saying this is easy, but I want to encourage you to break through those comfort zones so you can get to that next place. I'm Dawn the Recovery Lady. That was a lot. I say it a lot, but I know these are conceptually very hard things. But you don't do it all at once. It's baby steps over a period of time. And I promise you there's freedom at the other end. One of my major comfort zones got disrupted this morning a lot. While I was driving, I got a call. And you know what I did? I could have freaked out. But instead, I just was reflective on the decades of my life and how every time, and I can remember from being 8 years old, God was with me, God was with me, God was with me. And change was hard, but he carried me through. You're not alone. He loves you and treasures you and adores you. Reach out to him. I love you guys so much. Please like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate it. It's a blessing and it helps others. As I get some more subscribers, it helps me be able to do more content and it can reach more people who need help. Love you guys so much. Have a great day. See you next time. Mwah.